The crystal palace of the Zyrith Empire shined like a star in the center of the capital. Its tall silver towers touched the clouds, and its glowing blue halls were filled with alien nobles, soldiers, and diplomats from many worlds. On this day the palace was louder than normal. Queen Silari, ruler of the Zyrith people, was giving an important speech about peace between species. Hundreds of guards stood around the hall, wearing heavy armor and carrying plasma lances. Everything looked safe, secure, and calm. Among the crowd stood a single human soldier, Corporal Daniel Ward. He was not supposed to fight today. He was only part of a small escort team assigned to protect the human ambassador. Daniel stood near a side pillar, quietly watching the queen speak. He had no idea his life was about to change. No one knew danger was coming. Queen Silari's voice echoed through the hall. Today we celebrate unity. Our galaxy grows stronger when we stand together. But before she could finish her sentence, the palace lights flickered. A strange rumble traveled through the building. People turned their heads, confused. Another rumble came, stronger this time, making the floors shake. Guards looked at each other with nervous eyes. Then came the sound that froze every soul in the room. A deep, thunderous roar. Everyone in the hall recognized it immediately. It was the sound of void beasts, monstrous creatures from outside charted space, known for ripping cities apart within minutes. They were unstoppable, soulless things that devoured anything alive. No civilization ever fought them without losing thousands. Panic burst through the palace like an explosion. Alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed. The guards shouted orders, but their voices trembled with fear. Windows shattered as shadows moved across the sky. Outside, huge black claws and glowing red eyes approached the walls. Someone yelled, "Void beasts breached the shield. They are inside the city." Chaos erupted. Guards dropped their weapons. Nobles pushed each other to escape. Even elite soldiers trained for war ran away without looking back. It was the first time in history the Queen's personal guard abandoned their posts. Everyone ran. Except one person. Daniel Ward did not move. His heart was beating fast, but he stayed calm. He looked at the Queen, who stood frozen on the stage, unable to understand how her loyal guards had left her alone. In that moment, Daniel knew exactly what he needed to do, even if he was only human, even if he stood alone. A loud crash shook the hall as the main doors burst open. A void beast, tall like a tower, crawled inside. Its black skin looked like burning coal, and its mouth dripped with acid. Sharp bone spikes covered its back. The creature roared again, breaking pieces of the ceiling with the force of its voice. The remaining aliens screamed and ran faster. Daniel stepped forward. He had only a pulse rifle with half battery and a combat knife. His armor was light. He had no backup. But Daniel's face showed no fear. Humans were used to facing impossible things. They did not run when danger came, they became the danger. The void beast charged toward the Queen. She stumbled backward, terrified. Her long royal robes tangled around her feet as she struggled to escape. No guard came to help her. No soldier returned. The Queen's eyes filled with confusion and despair. But Daniel ran toward her instead of away. He grabbed her arm and pulled her behind him. "Stay behind me," he shouted. The Queen stared at him, shocked. "Why do you protect me? You are not even my guard." Daniel didn't answer. He raised his pulse rifle and fired at the beast's eyes. The shots hit hard, making the creature scream in anger. It swung its huge claw, and Daniel dove aside, rolling across the marble floor. The claw smashed the pillar behind him like paper. Daniel jumped to his feet and attacked again. The beast rushed at him, breaking chairs and pulling down banners. The hall filled with dust and smoke. Daniel kept shooting until the rifle clicked empty. He threw it aside and pulled out his knife. The Queen watched in disbelief. Humans were smaller, weaker, and slower compared to her people. But this one human fought harder than 10 of her strongest guards. He moved with pure instinct, jumping, dodging, slashing. The void beast caught Daniel with a heavy swing, sending him crashing into a wall. Pain shot through his body, but he forced himself to stand. Blood ran down his forehead. His breath shook, but his eyes stayed sharp. The Queen whispered, He stands again? How?" Daniel stared at the monster and held his knife tightly. He said only one thing. "You will not touch her." The hall shook as more void beast roars echoed from outside. The Queen's people were losing the city. But inside this hall, one human refused to give up. Daniel stepped forward again, ready to face the monster, alone. And for the first time in her life, Queen Silari felt hope. Because when everyone ran, a human stayed. Smoke filled the grand hall. Pieces of broken crystal and metal lay everywhere. The void beast snarled as it prepared to attack again, but Daniel stood between it and the queen. His body hurt, his armor was cracked, and blood ran down his arm, but his spirit remained unbroken. He tightened his grip on the knife. "Move back," he said to the queen without taking his eyes off the monster. Queen Silari stepped behind him, still shocked by what she had seen. In her world, leaders were protected by armies, technology, and shields. But in this moment she had only one defender, a single human with a small blade. The void beast lunged toward Daniel. He jumped aside, rolling across the floor. The creature slammed its claws into the ground, breaking the marble into sharp fragments. Daniel used the moment to strike, cutting across its leg. The wound wasn't deep, but it made the beast turn its attention fully toward him. Daniel ran, forcing the creature to chase him away from the queen. He knew he couldn't kill it directly, not with just a knife, but he knew something else. Humans excelled at improvising. He moved toward the side hallway where fallen banners and shattered lights hung loose. When the void beast followed, Daniel cut a sparking electrical cable and tossed it onto the floor. As the beast stepped on it, a wave of blue electricity shot up through its body. The monster screamed. Daniel grabbed the queen's arm again. "We need to move. Now." They ran through the palace corridors. The queen breathed heavily, not used to fleeing. Daniel stayed alert, checking corners, scanning shadows. The palace was collapsing in places. Explosions sounded in the distance as more void beasts tore through the city. Finally, they reached a narrow maintenance passage only a few knew existed. The queen activated a hidden panel, and the door slid shut behind them. Inside the small chamber, the queen finally broke her silence. "Human, why? Why did you stay when everyone else ran?" Daniel wiped blood from his face. "Because you were in danger. And because humans don't leave someone behind." The queen shook her head. "Even my own guards abandoned me. We trained them for years. They are stronger than humans. They have better armor. They have more courage, or so I thought." Daniel looked at her. "Courage isn't about strength. It's about choice." The queen fell silent. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the palace again, an even deeper, darker roar than before. Daniel felt the ground tremble under his boots. The queen's face turned pale. "That sound, it is the void beast Alpha." Daniel frowned. "Alpha? The strongest, the leader. Much larger, much smarter. If it finds us, we won't escape." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then we don't let it find us. We move." He opened the maintenance hatch and stepped out first, scanning for danger. The hall was quiet, almost too quiet. The glowing palace lights flickered, making long shadows dance across the walls. They walked carefully, passing 2 dead guards who had fallen in their attempt to flee. The queen looked away, feeling guilt burn inside her. She had always believed her guards were unmatched. Today they were just cowards running from fear. As they continued deeper into the palace, Daniel stopped suddenly. He saw movement at the far end of the hall. Something huge moved in the darkness. Slow, heavy steps, each one shaking dust from the ceiling. Daniel whispered, "It's close." The queen whispered, "We must hide." But Daniel shook his head. "Hiding won't save you forever. We need a safer room. A locked one. A place with strong walls." The queen nodded. She knew exactly where to go. They rushed toward the royal archives, a chamber built like a fortress. As they ran, the alpha beast roared again. This time the sound was so powerful that parts of the ceiling collapsed. Daniel shielded the queen with his own body as rocks and metal fell around them. He took another hit on his shoulder but kept moving. They reached the archive doors and the queen used her handprint to open them. The room glowed with blue energy and ancient technology. Once inside, she locked the heavy doors. For a moment there was silence, until the queen turned to Daniel and said quietly, "I have never seen someone fight like you. Humans are different." Daniel gave a small, tired smile. "We're used to danger. And we don't like losing." The queen stepped closer, studying him. "You risked your life for someone not of your world. For someone you barely know." Daniel looked into her eyes and answered simply, "Because you're my responsibility. And humans protect what they promise to protect." The queen's expression softened. A strange, unfamiliar warmth filled her chest. Respect, admiration, and something deeper. But their moment ended when a massive shadow passed outside the archive doors. Dust fell from the ceiling. The alpha beast had found them. Its roar shook the room like thunder. Daniel stepped in front of the queen again, knife in hand, standing like a soldier ready to face a god. The queen whispered, You cannot win against that. Daniel replied. Maybe not. But I can buy time. And with that he prepared for the next battle. The heavy archive room doors shook again as the Void Beast Alpha slammed against them. Deep cracks formed along the metal surface. The Queen flinched each time the monster hit the barrier, but Daniel stood calm, breathing slow and steady, like a soldier waiting for the right moment. He checked the room. It was filled with glowing tablets, old star maps, and stacks of knowledge from thousands of years of Xyrath history. The walls were thick stone with reinforced energy cores, built to survive a war. But even these walls wouldn't hold the Alpha forever. Daniel wiped sweat from his eyebrows. His knife felt small in his hand. His armor was damaged and his body hurt everywhere. But he refused to give up. The Queen walked closer to him. Her voice was soft when she spoke. Human, you do not fear this creature? Daniel looked at her. I fear it. But fear is not a reason to run. The Queen lowered her gaze. My people, they ran. Daniel didn't reply. He didn't need to. The truth was heavy enough. The Queen stepped in front of him, something she had never done for any soldier before. Tell me, what makes humans like this? Why are you different? Daniel took a slow breath and leaned against a cracked pillar. You really want to know? Yes, she said. I need to understand. Daniel's voice softened. Humans learned to survive fear long ago. On Earth, everything tried to kill us. Storms, fires, predators, hunger. We had no claws, no armor, no special strength. What we had was only one thing, will. The Queen listened, mesmerized. Daniel continued, we survived because we refused to die. We fought things bigger than us, stronger than us. We lost many times, but every loss made us smarter. Every wound made us harder. The room fell silent except for the banging of the Alpha Beast. Then Daniel said something that made the Queen tremble. Humans are not fearless. We just choose to act anyway. The Queen looked into his eyes and finally understood. Humans were not a weak species. They were warriors shaped by millions of years of struggle. A race that learned to stand when everything else fell. Suddenly the door cracked deeper. The Alpha Beast's claws pierced through, dripping black acid that burned holes in the floor. Daniel grabbed the Queen's hand and pulled her back. We need to move. It's breaking through. The Queen nodded and rushed toward a side exit panel. The archives had a secret escape tunnel, built long ago by paranoid kings. She opened the door slightly but froze. Another void beast stood outside the tunnel. This one was smaller than the Alpha but still deadly. Its glowing red eyes stared at them through the crack in the door. Daniel quickly shut it. We're trapped, the Queen whispered. The Alpha roared again. The room vibrated like a drum. Daniel looked around. He spotted fallen metal rods, broken furniture, and energy conduits sparking from the walls. Slowly, a plan formed in his mind, crazy, dangerous, human. He dragged a heavy shelf to the center of the room and broke it into pieces. The Queen watched him, confused. What are you doing? She asked. Setting a trap, Daniel said. He took wiring from a damaged console, wrapped it around metal shards, and set them where the Alpha would enter. He placed an overheated power core under the floor cracks. If stepped on, it would explode. The Queen's eyes widened. You learned this from your military? Daniel gave her a tired smile. No. This is just human survival instinct. The Queen touched one of the metal rods gently. Your mind, it works fast. Daniel shrugged. When death is close, humans think quicker. The Alpha Beast roared one last time, and the door finally exploded inward. The massive creature forced its huge body through the opening. Its skin was black and burning like volcanic rock. Its huge, bone-covered arms scraped the ceiling. Acid dripped from its jaws. It was a monster designed by nature to destroy. The Queen gasped as its red eyes locked onto her. She stepped behind Daniel instinctively. Daniel whispered, "Stay behind me." The Alpha stepped forward, and the floor shook. Its foot landed directly on the unstable power core. A massive boom filled the room. The explosion threw everyone across the floor. Shards of metal flew everywhere. Daniel covered the Queen with his body, taking the brunt of the blast. His back armor shattered. Pain exploded through him. But he didn't stop. The Alpha staggered, injured but still alive, roaring in rage. It charged again, blinded by fury. Daniel rolled aside and grabbed a burning metal pipe. Without hesitation, he thrust it into the beast's shoulder. The beast howled. The Queen watched with wide, stunned eyes. Daniel fought like a creature born from chaos itself, wounded, bleeding, but unstoppable. The Alpha slammed Daniel with its tail, sending him crashing into a wall. Dust fell everywhere. Daniel groaned, holding his ribs, but forced himself to stand again. The queen whispered, "How can he still rise? How can any being rise after that?" Daniel staggered, barely breathing, but took one last step forward. "You want me?" he said to the beast. "Then come get me." The Alpha charged. Daniel braced himself for the final crash. Fade out. The queen's eyes widened. You learned this from your military?" Daniel gave her a tired smile. "No. This is just human survival instinct." The queen touched one of the metal rods gently. "Your mind, it works fast." Daniel shrugged. "When death is close, humans think quicker." The Alpha beast roared one last time, and the door finally exploded inward. The massive creature forced its huge body through the opening. Its skin was black and burning like volcanic rock. Its huge, bone-covered arms scraped the ceiling. Acid dripped from its jaws. It was a monster designed by nature to destroy. The queen gasped as its red eyes locked onto her. She stepped behind Daniel instinctively. Daniel whispered, "Stay behind me." The Alpha stepped forward, and the floor shook. Its foot landed directly on the unstable power core. A massive boom filled the room. The explosion threw everyone across the floor. Shards of metal flew everywhere. Daniel covered the queen with his body, taking the brunt of the blast. His back armor shattered. Pain exploded through him. But he didn't stop. The Alpha staggered, injured but still alive, roaring in rage. It charged again, blinded by fury. Daniel rolled aside and grabbed a burning metal pipe. Without hesitation, he thrust it into the beast's shoulder. The beast howled. The queen watched with wide, stunned eyes. Daniel fought like a creature born from chaos itself, wounded, bleeding, but unstoppable. The Alpha slammed Daniel with its tail, sending him crashing into a wall. Dust fell everywhere. Daniel groaned, holding his ribs, but forced himself to stand again. The queen whispered, "How can he still rise? How can any being rise after that?" Daniel staggered, barely breathing, but took one last step forward. "You want me?" he said to the beast. "Then come get me." The Alpha charged. Daniel braced himself for the final crash. Fade out. The queen's guards, those who had run earlier, stood at the entrance of the archive room. Their armor was cracked, their weapons shaking in their hands, but something in Daniel's bravery had changed them. Guilt, shame, and something new, courage, burned inside them. One young guard yelled, "Protect the queen." Another shouted, "Stand with the human." For the first time that day, the guards charged forward instead of running. The Alpha roared in rage and swung its massive arms toward them. They fired plasma shots, energy bolts, anything they had left. Daniel, still on the floor, watched through blurry vision as the guards fought with desperation. But their attacks were too weak. The Alpha crushed two instantly. Another was thrown across the room. Fear returned to the guard's eyes. Daniel grabbed the queen's arm weakly. "Tell them, aim for the cracks." The queen stood up, wiping her tears. She shouted loudly with command in her voice. "Focus your fire on its wounds. Follow the human's orders." The guards obeyed, shooting at the cracked skin on the beast's leg and shoulder. The Alpha screamed as the energy bolts burned deeper into the open wounds. Daniel forced himself up again. Every muscle screamed in pain, but he pushed through it. He leaned on the broken rod, dragging himself toward the beast. The queen saw him and shouted, "Daniel, stop. You cannot." But he did not stop. Daniel reached the fallen metal spike from earlier, the one he had heated during the explosion. With his last strength, he lifted it above his head. The Alpha turned toward him. Daniel roared louder than the beast. He leaped. He drove the burning spike deep into the Alpha's skull. The monster thrashed violently, hitting Daniel again and again. But Daniel held on, pushing the spike deeper until the beast's roars faded, and its massive body finally collapsed. Silence filled the archive. Daniel fell to the ground beside the dead Alpha. The queen ran to him, lifting his head gently. Her voice trembled. Daniel, stay with me." He gave her a faint smile. "Still here. Your Majesty." Outside, more void beasts roared, approaching the palace. The battle wasn't over. But the queen knew one thing. As long as this human stood, hope stood with him. The archive chamber was filled with dust and the heavy smell of burnt flesh. The giant corpse of the Alpha beast lay motionless on the shattered floor, its dark blood leaking across broken crystal tiles. The guards stood frozen, shocked by what had happened. They had spent their lives believing humans were weak, fragile, slow, yet they just watched a single human defeat the strongest monster their empire had ever faced. Daniel lay on the ground beside the Alpha's body, breathing weakly. His armor was torn apart, and every inch of him trembled with exhaustion. The queen knelt beside him, gently lifting his head into her lap. Her royal robes were dirty and torn, but she didn't care. "Daniel, stay awake," she whispered. He blinked slowly. "Still here. I don't die that easy." The queen almost laughed through her tears. "Foolish, brave human." Before she could say more, the palace walls shook again. The roars of more void beasts echoed through the halls. The guards stepped back in fear. "There are more coming," one shouted. "We cannot fight them," another cried. The queen turned toward them, eyes blazing. "You can fight. You will fight. You saw the human. He fought alone. He faced death without fear. And you, my soldiers, you will not run again." The guards exchanged looks, fear in their eyes but also shame in something new, determination. Another roar shook the floor. Daniel slowly turned his head toward the queen. "Your Majesty," he whispered, "help me stand." "You cannot," she said softly. "Your body." "Help me stand," he repeated. The queen took his arm. Two guards rushed to help lift him. Daniel staggered to his feet, legs shaking, but he stood tall. When the guards saw him standing again, despite his injuries, something inside them broke free. Respect. Real respect. Daniel looked at the queen. "Open the doors." The queen hesitated, then nodded. With a wave of her hand, the archive doors slid open, revealing a long hall filled with smoke. In the distance, several void beasts crawled through the palace ruins, searching for survivors. The guards raised their weapons nervously. Daniel stepped in front of them. "Listen to me. These things are strong. Fast. But they bleed. They can be hurt. Aim for the joints, the soft parts, the cracks. Fight together. Don't break formation." "But you can barely stand," one guard whispered. Daniel smiled weakly. "Then you better fight twice as hard." The queen stepped forward, lifting her chin high. Her voice was loud, proud, and full of fire. "For the Empire. For our world. For the human who stood when we fled." The guards roared back, their voices echoing through the halls. For the first time since the attack began, they were ready to fight. Daniel grabbed a fallen plasma rifle and forced his shaky hands to steady it. The queen stayed behind him, trusting him with her life. The void beast charged. This time the guards did not run. They fired as one unit, burning through the monster's thick skin. The beasts roared and lunged, but the guards blocked them, pushed them back, fought with new courage. Daniel fought beside them, every step agony, every breath heavy. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Humans did not stop until the job was done. A beast leapt toward Daniel. He dodged clumsily, slammed the rifles but into its jaw and fired point blank into its throat. Another beast charged a guard. Daniel threw himself into its path, pushing the guard out of the way. The queen watched him like he was a star blazing through darkness. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed in a blur of blood and fire. And finally, silence. The last void beast fell. The palace was nearly destroyed, but the attackers were gone. Exhausted, the guards collapsed. Daniel fell to his knees, then toppled over, unable to stand any longer. The queen rushed to him again. "Daniel. Daniel, can you hear me?" He opened one eye. "Did we win?" The queen nodded, tears falling freely. "Yes. We won because of you." Daniel smiled faintly. "Good. Then I can sleep now." His eyes closed, not in death but in deep exhaustion. The queen held him tightly. "Rest, human. You have earned it." Days later, the news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. A human saved the Zyrith queen. One man stood against an alpha. Human bravery changed an empire. Daniel woke in a royal medical chamber, wrapped in healing foam. The queen stood beside him with a soft smile. "You woke," she said. Daniel blinked. "Did I miss anything?" She laughed. "Only your own legend." She stepped forward and placed a royal crest in his hand, an emblem of highest honor. "Daniel Ward," she said in a strong ceremonial voice. "I name you protector of the crown. The first human in our empire's history." The guards cheered. Even nobles bowed. To them, Daniel was no longer just a soldier. He was a savior. A symbol. A hero. The queen looked at him with deep respect. "When all others ran, you stayed. And because you stayed, my people live." Daniel breathed deeply, feeling pride rise in his chest. "Humans don't run," he said softly. "Not when it matters." And from that day forward, the galaxy remembered one truth. Humans were not prey. Humans were protectors. Humans were the fire that stood against the darkness.